Anti, good morning, everyone. Today, the thought was to revise Baba's last Murli. Baba mentioned about how we should celebrate a completion ceremony of our weaknesses. And Baba also mentioned about how to, when we perform every action in Baba's remembrance, then it becomes a memorial. याद में रहकर कर्म करने से यादगार बन जाते हैं. So the thought was to maybe go a little bit deeper and try and explore and experiment with that stage that allows me to stay connected with Baba whilst performing actions. And it is also then linked with getting rid of the weaknesses. And so we were here discussing on this theme of waste-free thinking for the last few days. And so the thought was maybe we can discuss something similar today. And so when we say weakness really nowadays, when we really introspect, we realize that it's not so much like, gross form of vices that, we have, but maybe the subtle traces, and especially the waste, the waste thoughts, they come every now and then. These are basically obstructing thoughts that come and interfere in our natural flow of energy, natural connection with Baba. Something small, we make it big, and that just like clouds, they hide the sun. In the same way, waste thoughts hide our truth, our reality, our essence. And once the mind is incapable of holding on to any waste, it is then that Baba's remembrance can naturally be in the mind. It's like Baba said, Man, Mana, Bhav. And the last Sunday, Baba, last Sunday's Murli, Baba mentioned, Baba, Sthiti mein saath hai, seva mein saathi hai. Means in our stage, Baba is combined with me, and on the field of service, Baba is my companion. And so that happens, that constant connection with Baba happens when the mind isn't feeding on the waste. Really, what waste is that even the food, that we eat, something which is unprocessed, undigested, is all waste. And so if I just feed on the essence, there is no margin to create waste. I don't know if you know about butterflies. Butterflies feed on the nectar of the flowers. And because they feed on the nectar, they don't create any solid waste. So butterflies are those creatures that don't create any solid waste, just because they only feed on the nectar of the flowers. So in the same way, if the mind just feeds on, Baba's wisdom, Baba's light, Baba's thoughts, then really there is no scope for, any waste to be generated. And so how to really, be in that essence stage, not creating, not generating any waste. And then when Baba was mentioning that every action will become a memorial, now we see dadis, what actions they performed. And now we realize what it really means, that their actions became a memorial. Now we have, so many towers, right? The Tower of Might of Dadi Janki, the Avyakt Lok of Dadi Gulzar, right? The Prakash Stambh of Dadi Prakash Mani, and all these actually reflect the actions that they performed in Baba's remembrance. It's like when the soul is completely free from waste, then the soul is just a mirror that is reflecting God's light. And through that mirror, others are reminded of God in a natural way. But if the mirror is not clean, the mirror has the dirt of waste or weaknesses, then the mirror cannot really reflect. And so for the mind to be so clean that the mind then begins to reflect Baba's light, Baba's presence. And I thought then it is through our actions that we can really reveal Baba. And our actions becoming memorial really means that we're revealing Baba through our actions. So the thought today was, some kind of aspects that we can imbibe so that the mind is not capable of holding on to waste. It's like this waste-free thinking becomes a very natural experience for the soul. So maybe we'll share a few thoughts, a few different aspects of how to be free from, waste. And it's pretty simple. It's all based on Baba's Murlis, but a few thoughts that had come up in our discussions of late, and then we'll open up for everyone to share their thoughts as well. So one thought that has been coming that, really allows me to, let go of the waste. And especially when, when we sit in meditation, a lot of time that, generally goes in processing something which is, something that doesn't belong to me, something that's a part of the story. Story is the drama. And so when I tell myself, drop the story, like in this moment, can I just drop the story? Story is, so there are two aspects to it. One is the story that I've created about this role and all the old sanskars from past life, this life, that influence my present. So that is one story, that whole baggage that I'm carrying. And the other is that constantly, whatever is happening outside, I am creating an inner commentary or story about it, which may or may not be very good, very pleasant. And so that story also then influences what I'm feeling in this moment. It influences my state of mind. And so when we drop the story, it's like I've dropped both of them. It's like all the influences of the past, the sanskars, and all the influences of the situations that are happening right now. So I'm ready to just let them go completely. So then I realized that when I drop the story, then it's like there is no influence but Baba's influence. Then I, the soul, and Baba, and nothing else in between us. There is nothing that separates the soul and Baba, as if Baba becomes just a beautiful experience. Baba becomes combined. The soul is able to experience Baba very naturally because the soul is completely detached. The soul has dropped the story. Just this morning, this thought was coming that, for example, right now we're all on Zoom call. But so we are experiencing this reality of the Zoom call. But we also realize that this Zoom call is so fragile. If the internet connection drops, then I'll be disconnected in a second. Or if the host ends the meeting will end and I won't be any longer part of the Zoom meeting. So just like this Zoom call is like a story, in the same way, we are all involved right now in a story. The story, this character, this name, this role, this responsibility, this relationships, even the alokik seva, whatever it could be. But it's all part of the story. And just like the Zoom call is so fragile, in the same way, the story is very fragile. Anything can happen any moment. And as Baba says, whatever we are seeing with these eyes can just disappear like this, in a split second. And so am I seeing the drama with that lens that it's so temporary, so fragile, that next moment anything can happen and everything will disappear, right? And so something which is so fragile, it's very easy for me to drop from my mind right now. And as I drop, I stop being under the influence of the story. And then I naturally begin to experience Baba. And just like Baba is beyond the story, Baba enters the story as a guest. Baba exits the story as a guest. Baba knows that the story doesn't define him. His existence is not determined by the story. And so in the same way, I, the being, the soul, I realize that whatever is happening in the story, in the life of this role, doesn't define who I am. My existence is not dependent on what is happening inside the story. And so complete detachment from the story, as if the story is, is something which is not even relevant for me. Just to create that energy within myself, completely detached. And when I just feel completely detached from the story, I then begin to attach my heart, begin to feel Baba's presence in a very real way. And then I realize that there's only one Baba and there's no one else anyways. Everyone else is just playing their roles. I remember that, we were listening to Dadi Janki's class of late, and she was sharing very beautifully that, when we are playing our part as an actor, so the actor always is constantly looking at the director for signals, for guidance. The actor is not looking at other actors, what they are doing, how they are performing their part, but the actor is only concerned with what the director is signaling him. And so in the same way, I, the soul, the actor, when Baba said every action should be memorial, I should always be connected in remembrance of Baba. Like as an actor on the field of action, I'm constantly just in touch with Baba. As if, Baba is with me and I'm just looking at Baba and looking at Baba for directions, for signals, and everything else just is a story and everyone else is an actor. I don't take seriously whatever the other actors are performing their role. I'm completely detached. And I felt that just this realization. I'm just looking at the director. And so then, man mana bhav is just, I rest my mind on the divine. I rest my mind on Baba. If I rest my mind on the story, then because the story is changing every moment, is unpredictable, the mind tends to become stressful, or mind tends to then go into that loop. But if I just detach completely, and then naturally I'm just focused on Baba. There's no one else that I need to hold in my mind. And then this experience with Baba, like Baba said, like all relationships with Baba and being Man Mana Bhav is the real entertainment. And so the soul experiences all relationships with God. And so as if there are two aspects. One is the life inside the story, and the other is the life outside the story. So life inside the story is when I have made the story big in my mind, and I'm constantly, just absorbed in those thoughts. But the moment I detach, I realize that, my reality is completely different, separate. The story is in a different dimension altogether. And I can really release the story from my mind. And when I'm looking at the story from up above, then I'm not lost in the detail. Then, when I feel these days, Baba mentions about not getting lost. This is, the trap, the maze, and we are just above it. So even in this moment, we must be sitting somewhere in our homes, in our rooms. So there's one reality that we are seeing right now, our walls, maybe fans or lights, etc. But when we go out of our house, then we look at the same house from a distance. We're looking at the same house, but from outside, not from inside. So in the same way, I look at my life, I look at the story from outside, not from inside. Because inside, then I can lose something. Yeah? And when there is any feeling of losing something, it creates a wasteful feeling, a wasteful thought. And outside, I am completely secure. And I'm just looking at the story from outside. And so I felt that these really have helped me in my journey. Just creating moments where I can completely detach and look at the story from up above. So even right now, if we want to take a moment and just realize that everything that happened yesterday, day before, 5 years back, 10 years back, before this body was born, everything, all the relationships, all the stories, even right now, whatever is happening is all part of the story. And the story is happening. It's like a Zoom call. It's happening in a different dimension. And we beings of light, we souls, we belong to the dimension of God. The dimension where Baba lives naturally. And I, the soul, I also live there. That's my reality. Just being absorbed in the presence of the one who loves me, who unconditionally accepts me, who is my constant companion. I don't need to do anything but just acknowledge his presence. Right now, I am in Baba's presence. And the story falls off my mind. So I've realized that especially when, sitting in yoga and these thoughts help me to get out of the clutches of the story. And one thing that I have realized that try to experiment with, especially on the field of action, when we have all busy lives and we have to do a lot of things, and and we are in the dimension of time, and so things have to be done on time also. And so sometimes I feel that if I take pressure off the time, then that pressure then drives my actions rather than Baba's remembrance. And I tend to naturally, or easily rather, become time conscious, action conscious. And then suddenly, there's somewhere that silence, that peace, gets compromised. And so one thing that I try to experiment with is, stretch the time. Stretch the time. Time is relative or time is elastic. Just like we know from Einstein's theory of relativity, the time is elastic and I can easily stretch time now. And so, for example, it's like if I have something to be done, let's say a deadline is coming up and I have only 3 days left, for example. And so suddenly the mind says, oh, there's only 3 days left, 3 days left, a lot to be done. And if I just say, no, there's a lot of time, there's not just 3 days, but it's actually 72 hours. It's a lot of time, 72 hours. Let me just relax. Let me be myself. And we generally say, like once we were discussing, slow is fast. When I'm slow inside, I can easily be fast outside. So when I'm just slow inside, I have stretched the time, so I'm not under the pressure of time. And so I can then be fast outside. And sometimes I feel, when Baba says Sudarshan Chakra and, even, 5,000 years. So it's more like I feel seeing the story, seeing this moment from the perspective of 5,000 years. It's so small and so insignificant, as if I've stretched the time in my mind. It's basically I'm creating time. So that's why we say in meditation, we create time. Because then my thoughts are, very slow and I'm able to, not, come under the influence of the pressure of time. But I am relaxed, and when the time is right, the right thought will come at the right time. And so my job is just to stay in that clarity and relaxed state. And then whenever something needs to happen at the right time, right thought will come. Baba will touch the intellect, thought will come. It will get manifested, things will happen. And then I, just let it go, completely. And so then I move on to the next task. So in that way, I'm not even attached to the task. I'm not, given myself away in the story, in the task. And so I can easily, sit back, relax, enjoy with Baba and let the story take its own course. I've stretched the time in my mind. So even when it is like, say, 1 hour left, that's 3,600 seconds. It's a lot of time. So that I don't feel pressured by time. And I've realized that when I don't feel pressured by time, it is then, it's like, this energy of God, through Brahma is the energy of creation. Then this creation happens. The mind becomes creative. Right. And so this one is stretch the time. And then it's like we say, pay attention to the invisible, especially when we are in the field of service. A lot of times, there's so many things happening. We have to interact with so many people. And a lot of times our attention goes to the visible aspects. Who's doing what? Are things happening on time? So many uncertainties are there. And I've realized the moment my attention goes to the visible, it's as if I've lost myself there. And that's where a lot of waste then emerges. Why is this one not doing things right? Maybe he's not following Srimad, he's not doing it right. Everyone does that way. All these thoughts, will naturally emerge. And so one thing that, I'm trying to experiment with is, just to pay attention to the invisible. So once I change the invisible, the visible will follow. Means I just, pay attention to the invisible energy of love and respect with whoever I'm interacting with. For example, not looking at anything else, but just this invisible energy this Baba's energy that holds us together. Sometimes just looking at that soul 5,000 years, back in the deity form, we were all there. And it's like I'm paying attention to this invisible being that is so beautiful, that is like a diamond that needs to be acknowledged and appreciated. And not just the old sanskars and the, iron-aged sanskars. And I felt that the more I, consciously, just pay attention to the invisible. And that's why daily Murli, I feel Murli is the real way to train the mind to see the invisible. When my focus is on Baba, is on Murli, then the mind stays in the invisible, because Baba is taking the mind into the invisible. Drama is pulling the mind into the visible, right? So on one side there is Baba, on one side there is drama. So I pay attention to the invisible. And that's where, anything, okay, Baba, what do you think? What do you say? It's like my attention is on the invisible. Sometimes these days, program is happening, something is happening, but is my attention that everyone should feel happy, content, and then I have realized that once we just hold on to the invisible, then the visible aspect automatically, takes care of by itself. Someone will come, some things will happen, and things will get done. It's like we don't need to really plan out so many things, but just stay in our, stage of, being invisible. So this is like working on the roots, and then the tree will automatically emerge, and so on. And so I've realized that this also helps, the soul just get rid of waste completely. And maybe I'll just share this, and then we'll try to open up as well. It's like, especially when we are closing the day, ending the day with Baba, and we are rewinding the day in our mind. It's like at that time, if I can just, sometimes when we are rewinding the story, then the reel will get stuck in some scene, like something has happened. If I'm emotionally entangled in that scene, then the reel will get stuck. And it is then that when I apply the dot, I apply a full stop and a knot. And so many times I remember I have, if a scene is, coming over and over again in my mind, I'll just, write down over and over again, I am not Saurabh. I don't live in Indianapolis. I don't live in America. I am not responsible for this. I am not this. It's like not. The moment I say not, I'm not. It's like I'm letting go of that, that scene from my mind, because that's the reality. The reality is that all of you are not sitting in India or wherever, because that's in the story. The reality is that we're all, Baba's souls. We all have come from our home of light, right? We're just, participants here, in this stage of life. And we are actors, we are guests here. And this role, this body belongs to a foreign dimension. It is not our dimension, right? And so the more I can say not, and dot, and that just allows me to really get rid of all the any debris that I accumulated during the day. And so it's very easy then to just let go completely. Right. And so if I were to kind of briefly summarize, all these, like drop the story, living outside the story, stretch the time, pay attention to the invisible, right? And applying a dot and a knot. It's like if I see the entire story, including this moment right now, happening inside a box, and that box is the drama, and there is another dimension, and that dimension is our dimension, where we as beings of light, as souls, we live in our dimension of light, in our home of light. And we enter this drama as a guest. We wear a costume. The costume has a name. The costume has a form. The costume has a script, a role, and a responsibility. So there's an entrance, and then there is an exit too. But I realize that my reality is up there, not in the drama down below. I realize that this drama is extra for me. Even without the drama, I am myself. I exist without the drama. The drama doesn't define who I am. It's like I am completely independent of the story. And then when I stay in that clarity, timelessness, and security as my natural experience, then there's no margin of any kind of waste to emerge. And when the soul feels completely secure, then there is no way that the soul can go into any expansion, any waste. It is then that that security, when the soul comes from that secure perspective onto the field of action, then the energy of peace, the energy of happiness, the energy of lightness, the energy of love, the energy of concentration automatically accompany the soul. And so when Baba says it's like being a memorial, when my actions are colored with these energies, that come from Baba, then naturally, the actions are becoming a memorial. There's no waste, scope for any waste. And the soul is naturally in this secure experience, waste-free. So right now, maybe let's just take a moment to just come back to our experience as a being of light who lives in our home of light with this beautiful family of light. We all have immense love and respect as these beings of light. We are held in the energy of love of God, Baba. We naturally experience drama happening in a different dimension. We are completely secure. We don't need anything from the drama. We can't take also anything from the drama. And this drama can end any moment. It's very fragile. Isn't worthy of occupying any space in my mind. So mind only holds onto Baba's presence. Om Shanti. Thank you. Cha, Om Shanti. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, family. Love to open up and hear everyone. Om Shanti.
Yes, Rachna Ben, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Om Shanti. Thank you, brother, for such beautiful reflections. And it was a very new light in which you have put our waste thoughts. And probably from now on, when I sit for yoga, I'll remember all these points which will help me to increase my focus and concentration. So very beautifully narrated. and put forward. Thank you for that. And my question was regarding this Murli towards the end, where Baba has said that you have to remember that you are a lucky and a lovely soul. If you remember that you're only lucky, then you won't be complete. Sorry, only lovely, then you won't be complete. So lucky and lovely goes along. So I didn't understand this with a lot of clarity, because being lovely means, to my understanding, imbibing divine virtues. And I would be able to do that only when I drop my weaknesses. And I'll be able to drop my weaknesses only when I am in my uh, smriti of who I am. So why did Baba said only lucky is incomplete, lovely is incomplete, and you have to be lucky as well? Om Shanti.
Yeah, thank you, sister. Thank you, Baba. Shanti. Yeah, I know it's like I feel that there are two energies. It's like being lovely is when I realize that I'm unconditionally loved by God, and it's like, and that energy of love, it makes the soul lovely. And then the energy of, when I realize that I have the fortune of being loved by God, and it's the feeling that I am lucky. I'm a lucky star. So it's like the energy of the fortune of belonging to Baba, that Baba has given me. It allows me to, kind of be with Baba or feel Baba's presence. That Baba has given, Baba has come into my life. And so that's why I'm so lucky. I'm so fortunate. And so it's like that, that nasha, that feeling of, let's say, intoxication comes. That it's not just love, but this love coming from God at the confluence age. I'm so lucky to be a part, to be, experiencing God's love. Baba has selected me. So this clarity that allows me to then, have that love as an intoxication. So it's not just then love, but then love becomes an intoxication. And then the energy of the old sanskars, the weaknesses that often attract or pull the soul, they wouldn't then, stand a chance, because the soul is intoxicated in Baba's love. And so for the love to become intoxication, I feel this energy of this realization that how fortunate I am, that is important.
Very nice. Thank you so much. This is
Thank
so
you.
much different from what I had originally thought. So much. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Om Shanti, brother. Good morning. Thank you so much for the wonderful insights.
Thank you, Baba. Thank you.
Brother, when you were explaining about the pressure of time, right, pressure of thoughts, so I was thinking about it, and it's again going back to that stage, how much we can stabilize on being ever ready, right? Because everything will happen suddenly and unexpectedly. Baba will never tell us if something is going to happen tomorrow or in the next 5 minutes, though we might be in Madhuban. But again, if our stage is not stabilized, then it is of no use. We'll not be able to pass, right? Because another thing came in my mind is one story that which I heard in one of the class, that when a woman whose child became sick during night and was caught in the child was coughing very badly, and it was at night, and she couldn't call a doctor, and she had the medicine next to her, but it was night and she couldn't really pick up, and out of panic, and the situation was really bad, and she couldn't really catch the medicine. Okay, and then it took some time for her to stabilize her own stage, and then she looked at it, and the medicine was right in front of her, and then she, used it used it for the child, and then the child gets better. So in the same way, there's going to be situation coming in our life, right? So at a time of emergency, it shouldn't be that we get panic and confused and don't know what to do, right? So it's very important that we maintain the connection all the time, right? In order to do that, yeah, practice is required. I guess that's what Baba means, that ever ready stage, always connected. Otherwise, the time can really cheat us if you don't maintain that stability. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice, brother. Thank you for sharing.
Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti.
Khubsurat. It was just beautiful. You gave a different perspective of the Murli. When we read the Murli yesterday, it was like we were put on a signal: move fast, Maya is attacking you, make a sacrifice, finish your weaknesses, time is running out. And then, of course, he came to the beautiful part about memorials, why he's saying all that. But when we were led to that memorial, that one paragraph, if you see, a list of questions you cannot sacrifice, and not me alone. It is all of you have to make, because as Baba said, only when all of you do it will the atmosphere, the consciousness, the vibrations of the world of people. That was a kind of as if we were on a race in that paragraph. And then he, of course, says, but your approach to you moved like if I have to use a word, it's sublimation. The way you really may the waste, like how to make it into best. I always loved the word waste, because there are so many advertisements on how to handle waste, reuse, reduce, recycle, recover. I always loved those concepts to see how they are really managing waste, how innovative, how creative they bring about that which is waste. But you told us a different thing. Like, I like the first thing when you said drop the story. And I co-linked it to what you just shared with us 2 weeks back. You gave us two things: absorption and observer. So here also you spoke about detachment and attachment. So what I should detach from, what I should attach to. But one word which I took from the drop the story is, what is waste? When I try to write the script of situations, when I try to write the script of others, when I become over smart over this. So that time, all new, and I think it's innovative, but it's not. So your way of drop the story was nice. The second thing which you said, a little I couldn't understand much, which I would like you to later clarify. I love this outside the story. But inside the story, if I go on grooming, absorbing and all, how much should I be inside? How much I should be inside? Because then I'm still in that quicksand of waste. So this inside the story, probably I didn't understand it well. I was just thinking how much, what is that absorption you're talking about? Yes, outside the story, like. And the third, what you said, I loved it very much. Baba is saying time is short, but you are saying stretch the time, look at the big picture. Just don't look at the past and future, look at the picture. One aspect which I told you I didn't understand was inside the story. The second thing is, brother, you spoke about pay attention to the invisible. Brother, it's very difficult. It's like, half hidden, the roots. What strength I should have. I may have the power of discernment and all. So that, how do I really change the invisible? That's where my whole strength comes. Because the whole waste thought is out of a figment of an imagination. So how do I do it? And lastly, your dot and not. Dot is very clear, but what is not? Sorry, a list of questions just to summarize. Absorption, invisible, and not. It's suppose you could throw some more light on it, brother.
I really appreciate your beautiful gist and the way you have shared also about the script. That's also a new take on it. Like I shouldn't be writing script of others. Who am I to do that, right? But a lot of time we spend on that. So I know living inside the story, it's like we generally live inside, but it's the life inside the story doesn't need to be paid attention to so much, as much the life outside the story. It's just like, when Baba says, come and go, coming and going. It's like, of course, we have to, when we perform the actions, we have to, also, come into expansion, plan things, do things. We are living in this world. So, of course, we have to do all that. And so I feel like it's like, and that also is, that actually is real seva, to perform, actions in God's remembrance. So I feel this aspect of coming and going, it's like, I, the soul, I live outside the story, that's where I live. And then I come inside the story, I perform actions, but then I go outside the story. It's just like a car, I enter the car, I drive to a location, and then I leave the car. So there is some reality inside the car and another reality outside the car, and I don't mix the two. It's like it's very real and natural for me. I say, okay, I'm opening the gate of the car, I'm entering the car, I'm driving the car, I've reached my destination, and then I leave the car, and then I go to my, wherever I need to go. So in the same way, can I do that internally? So there is my life outside the story as a soul, where we all live, all the actors, we naturally live there. We live with Baba, Baba is with me. There's nothing lacking. That's my life outside the story. And I open the car, I open the door, I enter, I perform an action. And, then whatever, as soon as the action is performed, I have to go back, because then if I stay back, then there is, what is the, outcome of my action? Was there any credit? Was there acknowledgement? Or what am I getting? Or all those thoughts are wasteful thoughts. So before that comes, I need to step out, So the moment I step out, I'm naturally, oblivious to what is then happening inside the story. So that's what I feel. It's like this clear-cut difference between inside and outside the story. So I don't confuse and mix the two. And regarding the, paying attention to the invisible, of course, I feel, spiritual effort is just about paying attention. It's like, of course, the morning hours are the most important, Amrit Vela Murli, where we have, really, built that, that strong muscle of, and we are allowing Baba to just influence the mind in every possible way, right? Through meditation, through silence, through, Murli and different points and different, perspectives. And so Baba has then completely influenced my mind. Now, when I'm going onto the field of action, sometimes, it's like, it's very easy to lose all those, all that what Baba has influenced me, Baba has decorated me. But I felt like the more I, just pay attention, like, it's like, what am I paying attention to? Sometimes there could be a sound in the background, but if I don't pay attention, I don't listen to it, isn't it? The moment I pay attention, then I become aware of it. So right now, I am sitting in US, you are sitting in India or wherever. We are all connected. Why? Because the vibrations, the electromagnetic waves are traveling, and through that we are, able to communicate. Now, I cannot see those waves, but the moment I pay attention, yes, this is how this is all happening, I become aware of this reality. Now, in the same way, this energy of soul, energy of Baba. We are all actors here. That's the undercurrent. This law of karma, that's the undercurrent that is actually driving the story. But in the detail of the story, I lose the plot. I lose that all of this is really happening. And also paying attention to the invisible is like, I'm just taking a moment to be aware. Yes, to acknowledge that this is what is happening. The soul I'm playing a role with, it's not by chance. We're all connected at a very deep level, right? So just to be aware of this reality, I feel is paying attention. And we can be creative in this, in whatever way. And I feel all the 7-day pictures course, it's all about that. The more I, pay attention and become aware of that reality. And about not, I feel, when I say I'm not Saurabh, I don't live in US, I don't have, this, I'm not an engineer, I'm not this, I don't, I'm not responsible for this service, like literally saying this over and over again. That allows me to drop, because it's so easy to come under the influence. I get a service role and I feel that's who I am. And I start to identify myself with the service. Someone else takes the service from me, I feel upset. It's so easy. Because, and so this not thinking, no, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that. That's what I feel is it, it helps me to kind of completely stay away from this world of illusion. Right?
Thank you, brother. That was really beautiful. Just to tell you, how I used to deal with pace, just 2 words: slow down your thoughts. So in slowing down and all, I go to the source, find out the reason. Second was manifest a powerful thought. In that powerful thought, the dot comes. So just these 2 processes I've always tried. But this, what happens, the waste never went off. It came back, it came back. Like every day I had to use this process of slowing down my thoughts and then manifesting a powerful thought. But your perspective has given me a new thing. Let me also use this as a byproduct of what I have got a thing, and I would like to use it in my journey of peace thoughts. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sister. Appreciate it. Thank you, Baba.
Pramila sister, you unmuted yourself. Would you like to share anything?
Om Shanti. I will drop all stories from my mind right now and keep my thoughts only in Baba while doing any job or whatever situation comes in front of me. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So let's maybe move on to meditation. Let's take a moment together. We come back to this sweet presence of the one who knows me, who loves me, the only one who cares for me, the one who stays in absolute truth, the divine Baba. And Baba's lovely and lucky star. I see myself the way Baba sees me. There are no weaknesses. everything is a strength. Baba becomes my natural companion. And so there's not even a question of forgetting Baba. Baba's remembrance is just natural in every action, every interaction. I don't engage in any energy to fix the drama, fighting with the drama, resisting drama. Drama is also my friend. Baba is my companion. And I just flow naturally, aligned with Baba and drama. Om Shanti. Thank you, Baba. Thank you, family. Have a nice day.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Saurabh bhai. It was very simple but effective session. Thank you, Divine Family, and see you tomorrow at 5 a.m. Till that time, have a wonderful day.